Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and I've heard that September has begun, so here's that thing that happens at the start of the month, where Herbert Erpaderp answers questions that have been directed at him. Before that though, just a quick note to say that there won't be a regular video on Monday.
Why the bloody hell not?
Reasons. Some technical issues with Premiere that have caused quite a bit of delay, having some real life things to do, and also not really wanting to spend every spare minute to force a video out, in addition to this one and the group build video that will probably be up around the same time as this one. Okay, bring forth the questions, question bot.
I am question bot, beat BOOP. Hetz's Gunner Het said, have you ever heard of Big Wind, T-34 with twin MiG-21 jet engines? 3D printing and kit bashing aside, the only Big Wind kit to ever enter commerce was Mature Kasten's 144 resin kit. Interesting T-34 variant, isn't it?
I have in fact heard of the Big Wind T-34. It is certainly one of the more interesting modifications to a tank after its life as a tank that I've seen, and I would definitely consider building it if it was available in plastic kit form. It seems like a pretty unlikely topic, but we can always dream. It would make a really good kit. There's a lot of other converted tanks that would make really interesting kits too, like Sherman's converted for logging use, and a Panther hull I once saw with a crane mounted on top. All of those would be really cool to see as plastic kits, but they'll probably only ever be resin conversions, I guess.
Trekan Beluvic said, when I wear pants for only 3 weeks they start getting stinky. Is that Keefi's fault?
This is only partially Keefi's fault. Keefi certainly does suggest that you never change your pants, but it is Keefi. Keefi is an alcoholic. You should really know better than to follow Keefi's fashion advice, or lack thereof. Especially when it comes to pants, which are usually pissed.
Herchin said, do you have a unicorn kit or subject, something you would love to build if you could get hold of it?
I don't know that I have a unicorn kit as such. I mean, there are kits that I occasionally try to find, but have no luck for whatever reason, but they're not really something I would even come close to obsessing over, like I think the term unicorn kit would imply.
Imply, Herbert? Or implode?
No, imply. I would love to build a plastic AC-1 Sentinel, so I guess that's a bit of a unicorn subject, but as far as I know, it doesn't exist as a plastic kit, so it can't be a unicorn kit because of that reason.
Trekan Beluvic said, what place in Australia you want to visit the most you haven't been?
I think the place in Australia that I would like to visit the most is the Armour and Artillery Museum in Cairns. I've never been to Cairns before, but it seems like a pretty nice place, and that museum seems really cool. They've got a lot of really cool stuff there, and one day I'm going to convince myself to spend the money to go there for the yearly Armourfest or whatever it is they call it. I would also really like to ride the scenic railway in the area. A couple of years ago I did consider taking the train up, but it's over 1,600 kilometres, which takes 25 hours by train. It also costs more than flying. I do really enjoy trains, but I don't want to pay more money to spend 25 hours on one. I will go there one day though, I'll just have to fly.
Hetz's Gunner Het said, have you ever thought about putting your sprues in a dishwasher to automate the mold release removal process?
I don't have a dishwasher in the first place, so I guess using one to clean sprues never really occurred to me, and it would be kind of silly to buy one just for that purpose. I guess if I did buy one I would use it for dishes also. Anyway, I almost never wash my plastic sprues to begin with, not unless they actually feel greasy or weird in some way. I've never had a problem doing things that way. I think removing mold release agent is really more of a concern with resin anyway, and as such, at least for me, it's not really enough of a pain in the arse that I've ever thought it needed automation.
Mark Ferguson said, I haven't asked a question in a while, but now I have one. While watching you work on your railroad layout, I happened to notice the gigantic glass tank you used as a backdrop. That reminded me of your baby mice videos. Okay, here comes the actual question. How are your baby mice doing now that they aren't babies anymore? Has it been so long that they are no longer with us? Did you get more and just not tell us? Did they all die on you, scarring you emotionally so badly that you swore off mice forever? Have I completely misjudged you, and you were planning on feeding them to snakes? Huh? I didn't realize there were so many points to ponder about mice.
The gigantic glass tank is home to hermit crabs. It's not really intended as a backdrop though, it's just the most practical way to set things up. I guess I should answer the actual question, shouldn't I? I don't have mice anymore. I think I had a couple of videos with baby mice, or at least mice in general, so I'm not entirely sure which video you're referencing. At any rate, mice don't actually live very long. I believe the very maximum is 3 years, and that would be extreme old age for a mouse. 2 years is much more likely, so the ones from the baby mice video that I did 7 or 8 years ago are long dead. I think last time I talked about this it sounded really bad because I said that I let them die, and I did, because they do eventually die, but they lived a comfortable life until they died naturally. I didn't just stop feeding them or anything monstrous like that. I just decided that I didn't really feel like breeding mice anymore, so I stopped. All that said, I do sometimes consider getting more mice. They're really good pets, especially if you get some that are calm and used to being handled. They're really good for people like me who want a pet that doesn't require walking and hours of attention. Okay, that's all the questions this month. Let's have a look at some of the models that have been shared over on Discord. The Naval Guy completed Trumpeter's 700th scale Jean Bart, or is it Jean Bart? It is French, so it's probably Jean, like Jean-Luc Picard. You won't be surprised to learn that I don't know much about ships, but I do think this one looks pretty cool. I rather like the odd-looking, squared, angled exhaust stack. Looks interesting to me. I also rather like the weathering. It looks well used, but not over the top. Nicely done. Stolas said, "The time these two took is utterly ridiculous. Constructive criticism, muchly appreciated." I am a bit disappointed that you didn't use utterly instead of utterly, but these are some really impressive looking cows, and I would say that it was definitely worth the time you put into them. It looks like they might be a bit in the way in that diorama, perhaps they are on their way to Bovine University. Fantastic work. Trekan Beluvic shared this flying machine. It's an Italian tri-engined bomber. Savoia Marchetti SM-79 Sparviero. I've probably said that totally perfectly. It's a 200th scale resin model by Warlord Games for Blood Red Skies. Trekan says that he's only played it once, but likes the small planes, which I think is just as good a reason as any to have the model. Also, I think these tri-motor planes look really interesting, and obviously, it's been painted amazingly. Duck Barney shared this little French armoured boy. This is a 35th scale R35 from Tamiya, and it's been painted rather nicely. I do quite enjoy the French camo patterns, they're often very interesting. Well done. Man of Small Trains said, "My layout is a hat, apparently." I mean, if you're going to wear a hat you might as well wear a fancy one. Is it practical? No. Is it cool? Hell yeah it is. Peterenko shared this Zetor Super 50, or is it Zator? I have no idea. It is a Super 50 though, and it's a super little model. See what I did there? Ha ha. It's true though, it is really good. It's in 72nd scale, so obviously it's quite small. You can see that it sits on like 2 fingers, but it's been painted so well and convincingly that without a hand for scale, you would be forgiven for thinking it's much larger. And here we can see it sitting on this really nice little diorama. If you squint your eyes just a little bit, it's easy to imagine that this is a little square of some random farmland that somebody sliced out of the ground. Maybe the Borg did this. Amazing work. Okay, so that's all the models for this month. There was a lot of really good stuff on Discord this month, even more good stuff than usual, which is obviously a good thing, but it is a lot to share, so if you want to see everything, head on over to the Discord server and check it out. As usual, Ask a Herbert Erpaderp will be back next month, so go ahead and ask your questions in the usual question asking places, or feel free to drop by one of my live streams over on Twitch if you want a live answer. Thank you to everybody who asks questions, shares their modelling work, and of course an extra thank you to the folks who keep me going via Patreon, Ko-fi, and Twitch subscriptions. It really helps. Links are in the description. Take care of yourselves, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.